So the question we're going to answer today is Javier Milei good for Argentina? If you haven't heard the news, Argentina have elected a far-right candidate who's a libertarian candidate, who is a Mick Jagger-like figure, who is a bombastic speaker, and who has promised shock to the Argentinian economic system in order to bring it back from the depths of despair so that Argentina can fulfill its promise to its people again. He says that socialism is a cancer that has run its course in Argentina, calling it a little bit of a miseducation that has taken place with the people, and that the people are in love with socialism and that needs to be broken. He wants to take Argentina away from the peso and introduce and peg the currency to the dollar. In a viral video, he also spoke of making sure that the state is much, much smaller. He said he wanted to get rid of ministries, if you will, or departments of the state or of the country, such as the Ministry of Environmental and Climate Change. He wants to get rid of the Ministry of Education, or misinformation, or miseducation as he calls it. He wants to get rid of the Ministry of Culture and Diversity, amongst many others, and he just wants to leave a few. Well, a lot of people in Argentina responded to this message because he definitely identified an enemy. He called the enemy the leftards, the socialists, and he called them those who wanted big state. He was going to bring back Argentina, and a lot of people went for this. In fact, this is the first time, I think, in Argentina's history that somebody that's not from the main two parties actually won, a libertarian candidate. So the question is this going to work? Is Javier Milei going to be able to bring the economy of Argentina back? Is it actually good, right? Well, to answer that, really, you got to take a look at history. Javier Milei is not the first far-right candidate to have won an election. If you take a look over the last 100 years, he's not the first populist to have won. Bolsonaro in Brazil is a populist that won. I would call Boris Johnson kind of this cut from the same cloth that won in the UK. Meloni of Italy is another example. And if you go back to the luminaries of Javier Milei, so to speak, or to his predecessors rather, you'll find people such as Mussolini in Italy, and you'll find people such as Adolf Hitler as well. Again, not a popular example. But what you find with all of these guys is that the people were really upset at the state of things, so they wanted change. Because they wanted change, they elected somebody who was going to bring change, who was going to be more radical, and who promised a lot of things. Now, promising things and being able to deliver on those things are different. And even if somebody is able to deliver on the promises, how they go about delivering the promises is very key here. And this is what Argentina has to watch. Just to give you an example, when Hitler came into power, right, the German economy was horrible. The Weimar government was really struggling, right, with coming to terms with the reparations that Germany had to pay back from the Treaty of Versailles. And as a result, there was unhappiness in Germany. Inflation ran rampant, and unemployment was peak. It was terrible. So as a result, when Hitler was speaking out, when people are hungry, right, by the way, they tend to listen to people, even if those people ordinarily would be considered madmen. This is what happened in the case of Hitler. He started to talk about several things and started to make an enemy of a group of people. And guess what? Right, it worked well. Now, the one thing that people in Germany didn't really think about was how he was going to achieve every single thing that he said he would. Rarely asked for extraordinary powers to be granted to him, and that is something that he got, right? So the first thing that Argentina has to watch out for is this. Is Javier Milei calling for extraordinary powers to be granted to him because these are extraordinary times? If that is granted to Javier Milei because of this populist movement, then that is the first then the first danger sign, because that always starts off to be good, but as history tells us, it ends up being bad. Well, how did it end up being bad for the folks in Germany? Well, Hitler said that he was going to fix unemployment. What people did not understand was that the way he was going to fix unemployment was pretty much by ridding all the people of Jewish descent of their jobs and getting them fired or let go of, and putting the people from the motherland, as he called it, into those roles and that position as well. Of course, as you see, he also had other radical ideas that he wanted to enact. He wanted more room and he wanted to make a pure racist. But I am not going to go into all of that because that can open up a lot of wounds. But if you don't know about it, you may want to read up on what Adolf Hitler actually did. So the question for me is not, will Javier Milei be able to actually make good on his promises? The question is, will people forget about how he's making good on his promises simply because they like the result of what he's doing? Now, again, to be fair of the people of Argentina, I mean, about 40% of the population were living below the poverty line with no end in sight and mass inflation, over 130% inflation, I believe, year to date this year, right? That is ridiculous, right? You know, that means that people really cannot eat and they're looking for change, and they know that they've been in this cycle for decades. So it is time for something to change. I get that. That's not my issue. My issue is, how is he actually going to do it? Is he going to try to bring everybody along? Or is he going to castigate one section of the society? Now, instead of calling the state parasites, calling people parasites, such that there is now a division in the country so that he can start to exercise great power, right? And if he's able to exercise that great power over the legislature and everybody else, then the question is not what is he doing? The question is, what are his core beliefs? And are his core beliefs actually going to move the country in the right direction? Or is it going to move the country in a different direction? Now, just to be clear, there is nothing so far that has happened that suggests, okay, that Javier Milei is going to go the way of Mussolini, or is going to go the way of Hitler, or is going to go the way of Stalin, or any of those other despotic leaders, okay? But you got to listen to the guy, and you have to pay attention to it. There has to be a series of checks and balances in Argentina that is able to check exactly what he wants to do in the long run. That is the key. If Milei, number one, asks for extraordinary powers, if he starts to get rid and talk down about institutions that are really needed to make sure that there's balance of power, if he starts to talk about things and make enemies of groups of people in his own country just because they have very different beliefs or different beliefs than he does, and if he starts to behave like a strong man, then the answer to the question that we're asking today is very simple. Okay, the answer is this. At the very beginning, things might go well, but at the end of the day, when you take a look at the long-term consequences, it might be problematic. Now, the other thing for Javier Milei to consider is this. You're trying to get rid of all these ministries and everything else like that, but you are beholden to World Bank, IMF, right? And they have standards and rules by which everybody needs to follow in order to, number one, give you loans. And there are things that has to be done for Argentina to start to look attractive for a foreign direct investment perspective. So here's the thing. Although Javier Milei is talking big in this new world that we live in with all the institutions that we have, unless he makes friends in the international community and plays by a little bit of their game, he's going to find out that he is isolated and he cannot afford to do that. Of course, he's looking to court the United States, and the United States will be interested in the rule of law. Well, that is assuming that the president of the United States will continue to think that way. Okay? Now, you may be thinking, well, him and Donald Trump are the same, but let's just be clear about Donald Trump, okay? Donald Trump is just for anything that benefits America, and if it doesn't benefit America, he doesn't really care. It's what benefits America, according to his view. Anyway, now I'm not saying what he thinks benefits America actually does, I'm saying that's what he's thinking about. Like America first, MAGA, make America great again, is what he's on about. And the other thing that Donald Trump cares about is pretty much himself, right? He's shown that, okay? So let Argentina not fool himself thinking that, oh, well, if Biden just goes away and all of a sudden if Donald Trump is in, then they're going to be, best chums or whatever else like that. Well, if Argentina really wants to know what is happening or what will happen, think about what happened with Bolsonaro of Brazil, right? So Bolsonaro and Trump were pretty much kind of like cut of the same cloth, if you will. Bombastic speakers, radical things that they want to do, really trying to endeavor to get things done. Bolsonaro also had a really, really good base that loved him. But at the end of the day, right, outside of the tacit support and that Trump gave, Trump really didn't do much for Bolsonaro at the very end of the day. Neither did he do anything really for Boris Johnson, apart from saying, he's kind of a good guy. So this is one of the key things, right? For Javier Milei's sort of presidency to work, he has to make sure that he starts to drop a little bit of the radical tone to get everybody on board from the international community. And if he really wants to be one of the first strongmen to actually ensure, right, that Argentina is on the right path, he has to be able to negotiate and bring people onto the camp, drop the hard line, and make sure that he starts to win friends in different places. You know what? I think to some degree he started off at least showing good faith, right? During his candidacy, he kind of mentioned, hey, you know what? I want to align myself with the U.S. and I don't want to align myself with Brazil. And he was critical of Brazil and China. But he's already inviting Lula to his inauguration in Argentina, which is an olive branch, all right? So when he gets into the office, there are going to be some realities that come into play. But if I'm Argentinian, yes, rejoice and be euphoric, because at least you know that there is change coming, and change is always good when you're a little bit under the cosh and your poverty rates are going up. But at the same time, don't be so enamored with the positive change that you think you're seeing that you decide that you're going to give power, right, to a particular person to do whatever he wishes, because now he's now become your God, or he's become somebody that you think is going to fix all your problem. Again, history shows that doesn't end up too well. The same thing in regards to the state, right? If you're trying to get rid of all these ministries, etc., that means a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. In many countries, the state is the biggest employer, and that happens especially in areas where there's little foreign direct investment. Yes, part of the package that Milei has to put together is a way to invite a lot of foreign investments in Argentina. Only after you do that and you can make sure that people have jobs, can you then decide to get rid of all these ministries. If he doesn't do that before getting rid of all these ministries, then unemployment in Argentina is going to skyrocket even more. And if that just happens to take place, then his old presidency could be undermined again, and Argentina is just going to continue down this do loop where people are continuing to vote for people from one party or the other, and nothing really is going to get done. The other thing that Milei has to contend with outside of employment in Argentina is the holy grail, which is pretty much people's pensions. Now, the fact that the peso continues to get devalued may mean that people really understand that their pension may not mean that much, but getting rid of the pension, which is obviously an albatross, right, is going to be a non-starter for the people of Argentina. So again, is far-right Javier Milei good for Argentina? Well, the jury is still out on that one, but again, if you listen to history, it's probably not going to end too well for Argentina, and we need to learn from history, but let's wait and see. Records are there to be broken, so maybe Javier Milei will be the one to break this record. I wish all the people in Argentina the best of luck. I have Argentinian friends, and a lot of them are hopeful, so I wish them the best of luck, and that's it for today, and poor man out.